Hey guys, it's time for a new video. I figured something out, and I figured out why I started self-improvement. I always thought it was because I just wanted to become successful, and I just want to become a better version of me, and I want to look good, and I want to have money, I want to retire my parents, etc., etc., all the good things. Well, I realized it's different. Um, I was reading the book "The Mountain Is You" from Brianna Wiest. It's just a really good book, by the way. I would recommend it to everybody. It's about healing, about self mastery, about self sabotaging. So that was a strange way how to pronounce it, but whatever. I was reading that book. Nice. And I was doing the exercise they were in it. And eventually I found out that my main problem, my main need, or whatever it was called in the book, it turns out that I have a fear or an irrational fear that nobody likes me, which I firstly found strange, but then I started to think about it more and more till I didn't find it strange anymore. I just had to answer some more questions in my mind to eventually notice, like, all right, this is actually what's my problem? What my problem is? Why everything is going bad? Why I feel panic when I go into new situation? When I get stressed when I need to go outside the house? When I get panic attacks when I go to school? It is all because of this single thing that I had an irrational fear that people do not like me, which is a strange thing because no, it's true. Not everybody likes you, but you don't have to work yourself. You don't have to work so hard every single day just so people would start to like you. That isn't how it works. That isn't what you need to do. That isn't necessary. But it was a way for me to actually give in to this feeling, give in to this fear that nobody liked me. It was a way to silence my head, to not feel the stress every time, because I was starting to improve. So eventually, if I have improved enough, if I am successful, if I have $1 million on the bank, and eventually people will like me anyways. That was my way of thinking. That's why I started. I never really knew why I started before I started reading the book The Mountain Issue. I always thought I was starting self improvement, or I started self improvement because I just liked it. I just liked the like working on myself. I just like going to the gym. Just like doing the meditation. And maybe that's true. Maybe I do actually like those things. But the reason why I liked those things was because it fulfilled my need. It fulfilled being liked. It fulfilled becoming good enough that people like me. That's why I liked all those things. And it made me look completely different onto self improvement. You sometimes hear, right, the self improvement are just all these insecure guys that just want to become better and want to feel loved. Maybe not all the specific words, but you sometimes hear that, right? That self improvements are just insecure guys. I always hated to hear that. And probably everybody that listens to this does that too. I actually hated to hear that because I always thought that it wasn't true. I wasn't an insecure guy, you know? Well, it turns out that I was. And I actually found it logical that I created this fear because when I went to high school, when I went to every single school that I went to, uni, primary school, secondary school, like I don't really know how the school, what the school names are in English, but to every single school that I went, I was always a different one. First time, the full first school I joined, I was the younger one. Everybody was 5 and I was 4. So I was the youngest one, so I was the most different one. I was the outlier. I was the different guy. Then I went to the next school, and then it was in this big city. And I firstly went to school in a small town, small village that was laying around the city. So I didn't know anybody from who was there. I didn't know anyone because all of those guys and girls were from the big city and went to school together. And I was different because I just came out of this small town and didn't really have the confidence. So I couldn't really make a name for myself. I couldn't really stand up for myself. And then I went to the next school, and then I was really the youngest guy. I was really far the youngest, and also again from a small town. And I already didn't have the confidence because last time I went to school, I wasn't accepted. I already had the fear. So it wasn't strange that around 2 weeks later, then I started to have panic attacks. And going to school became harder and harder and harder. And I got even more stressed and stressed and stressed. I even felt a little bigger need to actually improve myself. Now I know that everything I did was to answer this need of becoming a better person, becoming a better version of me so that people have to like me. And knowing that the whole self improvement thing, I really look different towards that. I was thinking, like, all right, is self improvement bad? And I don't think it is bad. I think it is a good thing. In the end, it is a good thing. It's good that I actually started that. It's good that I gained all this knowledge and experience, and I start improving myself, that I do the delayed gratification habits. But if you do self improvement to fill in your insecurity that nobody likes you, then it is a bad thing because you're just running away from your trauma. You're just running away from your problems. The only thing that I have to do, that I had to do to feel better, to start to feel better, to don't feel stressed, is to know that I'm good enough for people to actually like me. To know that it isn't about uh, how high status you are. It isn't about working this hard. How often you go to the gym, the physique that you have. It isn't about that. It's not what it is about. People like you for who you are and whatever level you are. And yeah, maybe if you go to a new school and you are a different age, or you are from a different town and you come in a class where everybody knows each other, maybe it is actually true that then you are different. But that you are different does not mean that people will not accept you. It does not mean that you are not good enough. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that was how it worked. I thought I wasn't good enough, that people wouldn't like me. And eventually I created this fear. Maybe I created the fear in my first time I went to school, maybe later. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that I have this irrational fear that I should answer. And I can answer it by working extremely hard on my self improvement and actually start to improve myself. But eventually it will not solve the problem completely. It will only solve the problem right now. It will not solve the problem forever. Or I can fix it by knowing that I am good enough and letting my unconscious part of my brain know that, letting my nervous system know that. And then I won't have this problem anymore. I won't have these panic attacks anymore. And sometimes, yes, probably still I'm going to be anxious when I meet new people. But then I just have to know that I am good enough. And why do I want to make this video? Well, because I think it is important for people to know why they start self-improvement. Because if you start self-improvement because of an irrational fear or a need that you need to fill in, or some kind of trauma that you had in the past that you just have to fill up with, well, some kind of progress or anything like that, then I think it is really important to know that is your drive, why you started doing something. So now I'm doing self improvement whilst I'm knowing that I am good enough already. And it brings a whole new dimension. I actually feel like I make a lot more progress that I do not act out of this strange fear. Because I do not act out of making the most money. I do not act out of becoming the highest status version of myself anymore. No, I act out of joy, what I enjoy. And that is how I make decisions right now. So I think it is really important why you started self-improvement. And I actually found it out too late, but I am happy that I found it out right now. So ask yourself the questions. Ask yourself the question: why did you start self-improvement? Really ask it to yourself. Because if it comes from a trauma or something that happened in your past, something some kind of fear that your unconscious part of your mind created, then it's really helpful to solve that problem. It's how you truly heal. That's how you truly bring joy in your life. So I hope this video helped. I hope this video gave a new insight. And I see you guys in the next video. And by the way, if you guys have a question that you want me to answer about self-improvement or anything like that, just ask it in the comments and I'll try and make a video about this. I see you guys in the next episode. Whenever I want to make them or whenever I have something to say. Later.